Welcome back to the ADOTAT show, where we untangle the chaos of ad tech with a mix of wit, skepticism, and just enough irreverence to keep it interesting. I'm Pace Life Latin. Today we got Dan Callahan, the SVP at Spectrum Reach, a guy who spent his career proving that TV isn't dead. It's just had more comebacks than a washed-up rock band. If media had a bingo card, we'd be checking off linear versus streaming, AI's role in advertising, and the slow, painful breakup between advertisers and the Google Facebook addiction. And because I can't resist, we're also going to strand Dan on a desert island, no ad budgets, no deterministic data, just coconuts and regrets. But first of all, Dan, how are you? Are you ready to convince us that TV still has a pulse?
Oh, absolutely. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Look, I think TV in all forms, traditional and streaming, is alive and well. We're here talking a few days after the Super Bowl, which continues to be the biggest, most watched event in the world. And people are doing that across TV and streaming. So it's fun to see another successful day. And the price that advertisers are willing to pay in that game certainly continues to climb with its notoriety.
So everyone's rushing to streaming like it's the last chopper out of Saigon. But traditional TV is still standing, still delivering, and somehow not dead. Is this a slow fade out or a surprise comeback tour?
Look, I think it's been an evolution and, a little bit of a pause or a plateau, if you will. I think that the rise of cord cutting or cord trimming, the D2C app, some of the subscription services, they launched with a lot of fanfare. They launched at very low entry points from a price standpoint. And if you look at it, most of them have now come back to a hybrid model or an ad-supported model in totality. So, we laugh sometimes at what's old is new again. But I think that as consumers, there's a value in a unified subscription. We would call it a cable bundle or a video service package. But the modality in which you can consume and stream those services, right? Whether it be a traditional linear box or a streaming connected TV, and in our instance, a Spectrum TV app, that's what's growing. So we're seeing a lot of growth on the streaming side. We're seeing some, slowdown on the churn on the traditional side. But collectively, we're now talking about the entire video subscription universe in totality, which is exciting. And I think, consumers don't identify the difference. We in the media space know it, track it. Legacy-wise, it was measured differently, it was counted differently, but we've done a much better job as an industry in bringing that together. So I think it's alive and well, and the collective TV environment is thriving and growing.
So Nielsen shows linear TV delivering still some serious numbers. Is this a reality check for the streaming hype train or an inconvenient truth?
Neither of those, right? Maybe a hybrid of those two answers. It is the truth, and it's linear and traditional TV is still alive and well. I think we've tracked and are watching certainly the migration to the streaming Zumo boxes and the Spectrum TV app. But, again, it's about convenience. It's about accessibility. It's about time spent with television content. And that's what's alive and well. I think Nielsen and the launch of big data has been, a little bit of a shot in the arm for the industry here at the start of the new year. But the CTV streaming hype train is by all means alive and well. I just think that the doom and gloom death march of traditional television may have been what's overblown, right? A lot of people, you look back at some early predictions, people had the death of linear TV on the tombstone 3 or 4 years ago, right? And to your point, it still is, at least half, oftentimes more, depending on the network and the day part, a majority of the impressions and majority of the viewing.
Did you ever have to explain to millennials that there's still people that watch TV in real time?
He was asking if they still talk to their parents, right? I'm kidding, trying to mix in some humor here, but no, look, I think millennials, what I noticed with my younger cousins, right, is like when I was growing up, you would talk about programs by name. Saved by the Bell. You talk about shows that you watched, Wonder Years, appointment-based viewing, Murder, She Wrote as a family on Sunday nights, right? Like there was always those, memorable events where you sat down and you had to watch it at that specific time or you were going to miss it, right? And you weren't going to be part of the conversation. You weren't going to be able to talk to your friends about it at school the next day or whatever it was. And there was no on-demand and there was no streaming, right? So it was either then or not at all. And I think the convenience and the accessibility that streaming has provided is, prime time in some of those appointment viewing windows, with the exception of live news and sports, has shifted, and the flexibility of users to consume in their own personal prime time. Your hours of the day are different in Phoenix, right? People who work in different careers have different business hours, right? So you no longer have to watch TV at 8 o'clock to watch what you want to watch. You can stream it at any time, catch up on it at any time. So I think that's what's changed from a behavior standpoint. But my hypothesis is that the consumption in totality is growing. It's just fragmented across different devices and exists in different places.
I also noticed that streaming keeps on borrowing from the linear playbook.
In the sense of being ad supported again. And
I mean, obviously sports is the one thing no one wants to talk about. You can't do sports recorded. I mean, you can, but everyone already knows
it's hard to even, I'm even I've got friends that pause a game and I'm like, can't do that, right? Your phone's buzzing, you're getting alerts from all the apps and ESPN. So look, live is king. Sports in that bucket is what drives viewership and still drives massive sequential viewership, right? If you think about college football in the NFL, the fact that 14, 15 million people still tune in simultaneously, right? That's what's exciting for advertisers. That's what's exciting for folks that sell ads.
So I want to move on and talk about AI a little bit, the marketing industry's newest golden child. You're actually using AI for creative targeting. What is working and what makes the difference?
So AI has been helpful in a lot of things that we do. A lot of our clients on the local side are small, right? It's hard to put together television creative. It's hard to put together a commercial. There's budget constraints, certainly. Being able to partner with Waymark and different AI technologies to help make that easier, to help give them optionality in creative, allow them to test and try different things, is often met with excitement and optimism. So we've found a lot of value in AI. I think, there was AI companies in the Super Bowl. I certainly think there was no shortage of legacy talent and fanfare and production into those spots. But across the board, and to your point, in streaming and TV as a whole, I think we're going to continue to see the rise of AI-based creative, just as the images, the voiceovers, the quality will only continue to improve.
So what do you personally think of all the AI ads you've seen?
I think it's great. I think, again, if it's leveling the playing field, helps reduce the barrier for entry to television, let's do it. I think we've seen some of the products here in action. Again, if the clients are happy and we're getting results from those creatives, then they're working, right? I by all means think there's ways to continue to improve the process and the output. AI is the first step, and AI creative is the first step in getting there. And it's what we're going to call it, a 1.0, 2.0 iteration of it. It's still early days, but it's there, it's working, and we're happy with it.
Do you think it's actually predicting behavior, AI, or is it still playing catch up with the Kardashians?
I think it depends on the model and the application. I think in a lot of ways, the stuff that I've seen, it's absolutely still learning. I think the predictability and the predictive modeling is tricky, but I don't doubt that it's there in some instances, or will continue to get there.
If you had to give one honest critique about AI and advertising with no PR, what would it be?
I think it's a Rashad Tabakawala quote, right? And it's not that AI is going to take our job, right? But it's the people that know how to work efficiently with AI are going to take our jobs. I think in a world where the touch points and the connectivity is endless, you're on 24 hours a day with access to email on your phone and text message, right? We're all accessible at any moment, at any time. How do you continue to do more in 2 hours of the day? How do you continue to become more productive, proficient, whatever that may be? Again, it used to be those that could wake up earlier or maybe work a little bit harder to get ahead would be the early bird gets the worm. Now it's kind of like, hey, can I be more productive with my time? Can I help offload things from my plate through AI services? And it's funny, we've got the Microsoft Outlook here.
So moving on, no matter how smart AI gets, sales is still 90% persuasion and 10% knowing when to shut up. So how do you keep the human element alive when selling something as complex as spec?
Man, look, I think, in business and all walks of life, relationships matter. I think you've got to be able to know your customer. Oftentimes you're a consumer of those products that you're either pitching or looking to sell advertising to. So the human nature of who we are as individuals, what we do with our free time, how we spend our income on trips and cars and things that advertising is enticing us to buy is important. And then the human ability to take care of your client, make them feel good about what they're doing, have that relationship, that's important as well, right? And I don't think AI will necessarily fully take those pieces of the business over.
So how do you sell local to advertisers that are obsessed with national reach? Is a little bit like convincing someone that a farmer's market is better than, say, Whole Foods?
Look, I think on the surface, without a doubt, local is sexy again, right? Like local matters, where the point of sale takes place, QSRs, brick and mortar, auto dealer groups, you've got to go physically to that location to make that purchase. Sure, you get something DoorDash or Seamless, but it still is happening. It's being produced and put together locally. Outside of a handful of brands that can exist digitally and still have things sent to your house and show up at your door, national is local, right? You can advertise nationally, but you're looking to have somebody take a local action. For us locally, you reside locally, your business is locally, you're reaching just tied to that DMA, that market, that zip. And again, you need eyeballs and consumers in that market to feel a certain kind of way about your business and who you are to the community and what you provide them from a services or goods standpoint. So I would say, look, even the most global company at its core has a local responsibility, right? Whether that's to their consumer, to the communities that they touch. But again, I can't help but think 90% of purchases are done locally, even if advertised on a national scale. So it takes local scale, local reach to build up to national. It takes national reach to drive local transaction. So you can't really decouple them.
So how do you explain to people that hyper-targeting isn't just about zip codes, but about who lives in those zip codes?
I don't even think we have to explain it anymore, right? I think brands and buyers have done such a good job of understanding their consumers. We used to 5, 6, 7 years ago go in with some fangled suggestion of who a advertiser's audience was, but they know it, right? They know who their consumers are. They know what their interests are. They know what other products they buy. They're all smarter and more well-equipped to explain to us who they want to reach. So it's no longer us looking to take a stab at something or prescribe something. They know who they want to reach. They know when they want to reach them. They know where they live. So yes, it's that beautiful combination of market-specific zip code, but with a personification of what those person's interests are that really drive value from an advertising.
So you've said before that this business is still very much relationship driven. What's your best war story of a deal saved or lost because of a personal interaction?
Oh man, there's some good ones from the old days. There was one that was shared and it was on a podcast recently, so I don't feel bad sharing it. But
was there wine involved?
Not with this one. Yeah, a very funny story. A friend of mine shared it recently. It was Super Bowl a few years back. The advertiser that they were representing at the time was AOL. AOL was sort of the halftime sponsor, the way that music is today. The only problem with the Super Bowl that year, and it was on CBS, was that it was the game where Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson had a wardrobe malfunction at the end. And
Janet Jackson.
Put it bluntly, the presenting sponsor was probably not happy. I think CBS was a little bit taken aback by what happened. And the story goes basically everybody's at the game, the ad buyer, the client, what can we do to fix this in real time? And they were able to add a commercial unit at the end of the game and essentially get an added value Super Bowl spot back for that client. Everybody felt better and happy about the value exchange. And, look, maybe the publicity from the overall stunt at halftime wasn't bad, but the day was saved again based on humans in real time talking about what happened, trying to figure out a solution that would make everybody happy, and crisis averted there. So it was a funny story, but one that, again, has to be discussed and problem solved in real time with people on the fly talking about what we can do.
So you're in 91 markets. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
So how do you tailor your approach to each wildly different community?
So what's great there is, our AEs in these markets, they live there. They most of the time grew up there. Their family's there. They're part of the fabric of that community. So they themselves are tailored to those DMAs. They know the businesses. They've shopped at the businesses. They're friends, and sometimes their family members also work in those businesses. So it is naturally tailored in that degree. We've got a terrific marketing team as well that is based locally that helps from everything from sales collateral to marketing materials to creative production with Colonel and Waymark. So we are there truly on the ground. We're not flying in. It's not me coming in from New York trying to fit in a DMA that I have no continuity with as much as I'd love to. But, our people and that connection on the local level are truly the secret sauce, and the sales team across the country in those 91 markets are on that.
So if advertising is really relationship driven. I want to know why media buyers are so lazy and default to Google and Facebook.
I wouldn't call them lazy. I think, look, Google and the Facebook, they've created such a sticky environment, right? There's no doubt that search matters, search results matter, social matters. When you think about today's media measuring stick of attribution, changing hearts and minds and opinions, those are two of the most, widely used and interestingly influential platforms there are, right? And, there's no doubt you can get those results in real time. So for an advertiser, it's not an easy button, but it's part of the media modeling mix, right? I would love to say, oh man, I wish, we didn't see money go to social, or we wish we didn't see money go to the other platforms. But the fact of the matter is the universe continues to fragment. We talked about it in a meeting last week where it's like what we're looking to achieve, what the cost of entry is, and what the results we're getting out look like.
So I want to move on to talk about attribution and measuring success, because we know it works is not a strategy, but everyone seems to be faking it till they make it. But Spectrum Reach claims to crack the code on deterministic data. Is attribution finally solving the mystery? Or are we still just throwing darts in the dark?
So I think we are, we've definitely cracked the code. We are hitting the dartboard and oftentimes the bullseye. We're the largest MVPD in the country, surpassing Comcast and the others that have been behemoths for so long. What's great is we've got, a well-defined relationship with them, from everything from their mailing address to the broadband internet in their home, to every subscription detail from email address to purchase. We've got that data, we've got that relationship. And with that, in a privacy safe manner, it allows us to match those profiles and those households with our customers' data sets, proving exposure, proving reach, proving the unique impressions that we can serve them, and then tying back to the actions taken. So it's very partnership driven. It takes different technology providers in between. But when you think about probabilistic data and deterministic data, there's no better source of deterministic data than, in my opinion, an MVPD, content subscription company. But there's a lot of other folks that have other data sets that have competed in the addressable space, and we'd love to continue to stand on a mountain and yell about how ours is superior and differentiated. So we try to put the proof in the pudding, and everything from targeting to measurement on our households and our data is critical to our success.
So what's one stat that always makes a client's jaw drop? Is it something like this campaign drove 40% more revenue, or something painfully obvious like people buy more stuff when you advertise?
We've got both. I saw a good one. It's like people buy more stuff, right? Like we've got case studies down to that local level that's like, when you've advertised with us, people came to your dealership and they bought more cars, right? And what's funny now is the advertisers come back to us with case studies, and a few have said, hey, we pivoted money, or we did a different strategy, whether it be out of home, whether it be print, whether it be audio, and they see leads drop. So it's now, that's not our case study, but it's people coming back to us saying, look, we tried different things. We were sold on going down a different avenue with this campaign, and we saw less leads, we saw less action than we did when we advertised with TV. So I do think television, from a sight, sound, and motion standpoint, I think the engagement with it are all differentiated. And in everything that we've worked on, we have seen that it does drive those results that advertisers care about.
You ever have a client argue that their gut feelings are more important than statistics?
Never argue. I do think that, to go back to your AI questions, right? If we go back, and there's an agency called Hearts and Science, right? Like there's a heart and there's a science to everything that we do. The AI piece certainly being the science that's evolved and expanded greatly. But, the heart and that human element, kind of knowing, gut checking, understanding, again, yourself as a viewer, yourself as a consumer, your friends and the conversation circles. Is this the right or the wrong thing? It is important to check that as you understand what the science and the data and the tech or AI is spitting out or suggesting. So it's definitely a balance. I don't know if it's been an argument per se, but it's been a healthy conversation around to what degree of influence should the science versus the heart have in making some tough decisions.
So has it been like any bizarre insight you've ever uncovered, like say that people who watch cooking shows at 12 a.m. also buy expensive cheese?
I haven't seen that one. We've got some interesting insights across the board, across different categories. I think for us right now, what I'm continuing to be blown away by is not just the overall subscribers that connect with us on a daily basis, but it's, we're looking at the spectrum whole home, right? So when I got here, we talked about 31 million homes, right? So it's not subscribers. I would argue that we've actually got 92 million subscribers that reside in these 31 million homes. And in those homes, again, when you're on Spectrum broadband, there's over 900 million connected devices. If you think about TVs, laptops, phones, gaming consoles. So there's so many different endpoints and touch points that folks are consuming content of all types on, that again are connected back to us as that connectivity company to the home. It's completely differentiated. So those statistics to me stand out. The one that got a lot of fanfare last year, I still love it, and it gets people's attention, is the time spent statistic. That, when you do look at different streaming services and platforms, they're big. They have a lot of monthly active users. Those are often paraded around and celebrated. But when you get to time with content, it's oftentimes less than an hour, right? It's probably one show. They come in. A lot of subscription services have kind of wised up to the whole season dump at once, right? And I used to compare them to like a resort town. It's like you'd go skiing, you'd come in, you'd hit the mountain for a week, and then you wouldn't come back till a year from now. That was what was taken. Now you get this stymied rollout, more so in the traditional TV sense of a series released weekly. But
right, I think that's what Apple does, right? I think all their shows have gone that way.
Now Netflix Netflix still does some drops. I think it depends on the show. But I go back, the statistic is 4.5 hours, right? So it's the Spectrum TV household is watching TV with us for on average 4.5 hours a day. So for me, that time again with our content, with our devices is substantial and it's meaningful.
Well, you mentioned different platforms. I mean, cross-platform measurement is every advertiser's nightmare. How do you convince clients that you've got the answer when big tech keeps their walled gardens locked up at night?
I think it comes down to, again, understanding the full consumption footprint of our subscribers. One of our favorite slides to go back to the presentation is we talk about only both, in the sense of who is only a traditional set-top box consumer, who is only a Spectrum TV app or a digital streaming consumer, but you've got a streaming TV or a connected TV in, the basement or the game room or a guest bedroom. And those are also being watched by other individuals in the homes. Again, understanding the reach by device in the home. Maybe it's a different program being watched downstairs by the parents versus upstairs by the kids or the in-laws. But we see multiple device consumption taking place in our homes, and being able to track, again, the viewership from traditional to streaming to both. And yes, the growth is in streaming, but that bar of both, people that still have both connections, is fairly significant.
Okay, let's throw business out the window and get hypothetical. I'm going to strand you on a desert island. There is, no Spectrum reach, no ad campaigns, and no deterministic data. Just sand, coconuts, and your wits. Who is on your survival team, and what's your game plan?
Thank goodness. Look, I would take my wife and kids. I've got 3 kids. I think we would go relax and enjoy the quiet, enjoy no screens, no devices, no distractions. Like you said, sand, warm weather, coconuts. As I look out at foggy, cold New York City today, it sounds lovely as a deserted island. I'm ready for it.
So you mentioned that you want to bring your wife, your kids, and a 5-star chef. Are we talking Gordon Ramsay dramatic, or more chill like Ina Garten?
I think more chill, like Ina Garten. I've seen Gordon live in action, lovely guy, but we don't need to.
You don't want him around your kids, though.
A lot of F-bombs, yeah.
You want someone who can cook on an open flame, or a guy who knows how to open coconuts?
Ooh, I think I could try my hand at the coconuts. I think I would go open.
And what's the one ingredient you'd want besides coconut? And why is it always butter?
Besides coconut, that's a great question. Probably some vanilla and coconut sounds good. I don't know. What do you like?
I would think maybe rum. Make it go a lot faster.
Yeah. There was a cool rum. There's a 10-to-1 rum. I saw that Russell Wilson gave it away to all the Pittsburgh Steelers players this Christmas. I guess his wife is part of the 10-to-1 brand, but we're having rum and coconut. Definitely plug the 10-to-1 rum there.
So are you going to be the leader, and are you going to be the take charge captain, or do you delegate everything and call it empowering the team?
Well, you said my wife's there, right? So I know who's the boss.
She's the boss?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my wife watches this, so yes, she's the boss also. Are you cracking coconuts, building shelters, or do you just have like an executive presence?
No, I'm hands-on. I'm cracking coconuts, building shelters, hopefully a dip in the ocean every once in a while. But, I'm definitely a doer, and at home or at the office, lead by example. There's nothing that I would ask somebody to do that I wouldn't do myself.
And how long until your kids stage a mutiny?
They've already started. They're 6, so the mutiny is underway. So I'm sure they're.
So you can bring one movie and one album. What is making the cut? And do you think your family will regret your choices? And if you say Gilligan's Island, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, no. We'd film our own Gilligan's Island. It's funny. I've found with the kids, I'm enjoying kind of refinding a lot of those classic Disney films. So we probably have to bring some kind of Disney movie. I like Sing as well. Sing's a popular one at the house right now that everybody can kind of enjoy.
Yeah, just go Sing 1 and 2. We watch it all the time.
Both. And then as far as albums go, probably go with something country. I've got a little bit of a country thing going at the moment, but like a Brooks and Dunn or maybe a Morgan Wallen.
So how long before your family begs you to switch?
The album or the movie?
The album.
Probably after the first plate run through. Yeah.
So you're allowed one modern.
Can't do any more Kids Bop. The Kids Bop too much.
You're allowed one modern convenience, but not Wi-Fi and a telephone. What's your pick? A coffee machine, a hammock, or something totally unexpected?
Those are the options I would go totally unexpected.
Such as, or is it just so unexpected you don't know?
No, maybe a cold plunge. What's a popular modern amenity that would be good on a desert island? You got a sauna. You got to do the cold plunge or something else to relax. Hammock's nice.
Hammocks are always nice. So let's fast forward a month. What's the most surprising thing you think you'd learn about yourself or maybe your family after surviving island?
Probably different levels of patience. What SPF sunscreen we need to carry. It's already pretty high in my house, but maybe, we got to find or invent some new, more powerful sunblock. And definitely, we already know who the picky eaters are, but I'm sure even with a 5-star chef, more about, people's
How long do you think it would take before you start talking to volleyballs?
Immediately.
Put the business, legal, and survivor scenario aside, I want to know a little bit about you, the man behind the data, the deals, and the desert island dreams. What has maintained your leadership style? Well, you mentioned that your leadership style is influenced by multiple mentors. Sorry, I'll try that again. You've mentioned that your leadership style is influenced by multiple mentors. Who is your Yoda, and what's the biggest lesson they ever taught you? Was it just don't screw up?
There's been a few of those over the years. Yeah. It was always sort of do the things that are within your control, right? Manage what you can manage. Those things early days as a young individual starting out in New York City where, show up on time, be ready. You don't have to ask questions, but be present, be engaged. So I think a lot of the early advice and wisdom from, the leadership at the time and, guys like Mike Mandelker and Paul Rittenberg that, thankfully took me under their wing at that time to help teach me how to simply show up, right? It's one thing to land the job, but then, over the course of my career in the early days, you'd see people fizzle out, right? You got folks stay out too late. They don't come in on time. They get into a track of bad habits. So it was about habit forming. And again, taking care of those things that you can control, not being too distracted by the things outside of your control, doing what's expected of you.
Now that you're a mentor, is there a piece of advice that you find yourself repeating?
Thrilled to see my boss, Jason Brown, being promoted to president and, our current president, David Klein, after a great 46-year career, heading into retirement. And, it was a piece of advice given to me, and I've said it to a few folks on my team of, if you've ever bitten off more than if you're chewing too comfortably, then you haven't bitten off enough, right? So you got to always bite off a little bit more than you can chew. You've always got to be a little bit slightly uncomfortable. You've always got to be doing a little bit more than what your job description to the letter represents. So what does that mean? It means work harder. It means stay uncomfortable. It means stay curious. And, with that, if you're chewing comfortably, then go take a bigger bite. Go find something else to get involved in and challenge yourself a little bit more.
So you said when I asked if you could have any superpower, you want to see the future teleport. But let's make this New York City. If you had to pick between always knowing the weather and finding a parking spot, which would you choose?
Parking spot every time.
Because parking is a superpower in New York.
Yeah. I'm the weather thing I'm good with now, right? It's like cold, it rains, it snows, you kind of know your path. The subways are convenient, but the parking would be phenomenal.
So you've also been part of some big industry transformations. What's the one bold prediction that you have for the next 5 years in media? Never mind. We're not going to do that. I see the note. So what's one piece of advice you give 25-year-old Dan Callahan starting the industry? Would you tell him to relax, or would you say, buckle up, kid?
Oh, I would say buckle up, kid. I would say, go have some fun, break some eggs. I think, as I've learned and grown in my career, there's always, respect and a quorum, but there's no shortage of ideas. There's no shortage of the need for ideas. And oftentimes, the next great idea comes from the most junior person in the room. So if anything, I would go back and tell myself to lean in a little bit more early on. It was funny. I found myself oftentimes quiet, but playing in my head how I would answer a question that my boss was asked. And I'd be really proud of myself when I said the same thing that they said, or said something close. And then it's like, well, is that the right move? Do you want to just recite or be able to answer the way that they would answer, or do you want to be able to bring your own unique thoughts and opinions? And I think it's the unique thoughts and opinions, not that are contradictory, but challenge or evolve the current leadership or the current thought structure that are oftentimes most appreciated and truly most needed.
Do you think your younger self would find you cool?
Yeah, I do. I hope so.
And what do your kids say you do for a living?
Man, travel too much. They say I travel too much. So they don't know what I do. I've tried to explain it. I'll try again in a couple of years. But the only criticism now is, I travel too frequently. So they probably think, maybe I'm a flight attendant or travel agency.
So last one, what's the craziest opinion you hold about this industry? Something that makes everyone's eyebrows raised.
So this is funny, and it raised eyebrows, not in the way that I expected it, but I love it. I love the industry. I enjoy the conversations, the challenges, the people. Like, I genuinely am appreciative that I enjoy what I do. And I think that there's a lot of, complaining. It's easy to complain. It's easy to find fault, but the measurement debates, the content fragmentation, like I do love what I do. I love the places and the parts of the country that it takes me, and I enjoy everybody that I work with. I think maybe there's a handful along the way that's like, you know what, that was nice. I don't need to do that again. But I enjoy my colleagues at Fox. I enjoy my colleagues here, the partners in the space. Like, I've got some meaningful, truly long-lasting friendships, right, that have started in work and have transcended outside of work. And that's unique. I know friends in other industries, like it's just business, and the lights go off at 6 o'clock and they turn that version of themselves off and it completely goes away. And I think in media, with just, events and conferences and hospitality and sporting events and things that we do together, you're kind of, it's exhausting at times, but you're always on to a degree. There's a part to that engages me and keeps me excited about what we do.